Before this video even starts, I just want to mention that I am fully aware that the developers stated that they will be reworking the tutorial in the future. This video is meant to be me bringing forward my ideas on how that could be done and to spark discussion around the topic. Alright, now with that said, let's get into the topic. Well, I say that like I'm going to put some dramatic transition here. Anyways, the current tutorial is, well, strange. There is a TV which gives you basic information on how to collect evidence and a non-lethal ghost in one of the rooms that you can practice on. This form of a tutorial is very basic and very vague, leaving the player to discover most of the things on their own, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It gets the point across and throws the player a bone, well, after throwing them in the deep end, that is. Now, let's just put ourselves in the shoes of a new player in the current version of Phasmophobia, that being the 0.6 update. First thing the player will see is the truck. The truck has their equipment, a computer, a key and a keypad. With some fiddling around, players will discover that the keypad opens the truck and that the computer can be interacted with by clicking on the keyboard and the mouse. Granted, it will likely take them some time to figure out exactly how to work the computer. They also have a map of the location with a button they can click to switch between floors. This is pretty self-explanatory and the players generally have no problem with this. The icon on the map showing the fuse box is pretty obvious as well, and once the player discovers that it's pointing to a fuse box, it will stick in their memory. The front door key is also easy to figure out, but what I have seen a lot of newcomers struggle with are the door mechanics. In most games you have to simply press the interact button on the door and it will open, but in Phasmophobia you have to hold down the button and drag the door. It's not super hard to figure out, but maybe it should be mentioned in the tutorial somewhere. Okay, so now that the player is inside the building, they can go to the tutorial and now they know how to get their evidence and they go to leave. But wait, how to leave? Well, they're supposed to mark their answer in the notebook and press the keyboard in the truck once again, which is explained on the TV as well, so no issues here. But now they jump right into the game and, well, this is where shit hits the fan. So, for starters, the tutorial does explain that the ghost can hunt, but it never explains how to survive a hunt. It does touch on the sanity mechanics briefly, but considering hunts will be frequent when playing the game, the tutorial really skips that part. And in their defense, this is when the game was super simple when it came to surviving hunts. Just hide in a closet or somewhere and you're safe, right? Well, back then, yeah, but nowadays, no. The ghost can sense the player's equipment and flashlight if they have it turned on, and when it comes to equipment that cannot be turned off, that being the photo camera and the video camera, the player must drop them or put them away. It can also hear the player if they use push to talk or the radio. So a new player might hide, not turn off their equipment or keep talking, get killed and call bullshit. So that is why I strongly believe that the tutorial should touch on that in greater detail. However, reading walls of text on the TV is not very intuitive. So I propose making the tutorial linear and interactive while still keeping training mode as its separate thing. That way players can experience the different aspects of the game firsthand. A tutorial like this will not only help new players better understand the game mechanics, but will also make it feel less frustrating to follow along. And I would also argue that doing so wouldn't take much away from the discovery aspect of the game, since players will still have to discover certain things on their own, like how to distinguish a hunt from a manifestation, where they can and cannot hide, how to avoid triggering the ghost and such. Now, while hunts are a massive part of the game, there is one more mechanic that will most likely be completely foreign to newcomers, that being cursed possessions. Let's face it, with the exception of the Ouija board and the summoning circle, these objects are nothing out of the ordinary and most new players will walk past them without thinking twice. I don't think their purpose should be entirely spoiled in the tutorial, however I do think they should be at least pointed out to the player. The tarot cards and the music box in particular blend in extremely well, and unless players decide to sift through items on every map and interact with every single one they pick up, they'll most likely never figure out their special items. With that said, there is one more topic to discuss, that being certain ghost types which you need to always have in your mind during the game. The first of those being the Mimic. The reason why this ghost needs to be in the back of your mind during all games is because it gives off fake ghost orbs. And the only way to realize these are fake is by finding the other evidence pieces, but let's face it, no one looks around for more evidence after they have 3. At least not without knowing about this very thing. On top of the Mimic being super unpredictable as it is also the easiest ghost to identify, even on Nightmare, but until you know about its perks, it is a complete nightmare for newcomers especially. The other ghost type that demands special attention is the deogen. Why? Very simply because it always knows where you are, and the only way to survive a hunt with it is to stand where it has a clear path towards you. The deogen is usually very fast, but if it can get to the player in a straight line, it will slow down to a crawl. Once again, it is a very easy ghost type to identify once you know its perks, but if the player isn't aware of its ability, they may be hiding as per usual and get instantly killed. Then they'll either think they got unlucky or call bullshit once again. Now, I personally don't see a clear fix for this unless you want to plaster "beware of these ghosts" in the players' faces, but I do have a proposal for a solution to this problem, as well as giving new players more breathing room as to not get overwhelmed by the sheer number of ghost types. I propose that difficulties have a limit on how many ghost types can appear. So, for example, amateur would only have the original 12 ghost types. This would of course exclude the mimic and the deogen. This way, new players who are only starting out can get a good feel for the game without having to worry about extra conditions. Intermediate difficulty would have 21 possible ghost types, so up to the mimic. Now, I have no idea how many ghost types the developers are planning to add up to and after launch, and how many more high priority ghost types they will add, so this number is highly volatile. Anyways, the reason why I propose this is so the players have a nice stepping stone and are introduced to high priority ghost types. Also, maybe marking the high priority ghost types differently in the journal for the sake of drawing the players' attention to them is a good idea. And finally, Professional and Nightmare would have all ghost types. And if you're not a fan of this idea because you would rather have a chance to experience all ghost types in lower difficulties, I have a proposal for that as well. The developers are currently working on custom difficulty settings, so I'm thinking that one of the settings could be choosing what ghost types can and cannot appear. This way, newcomers who are learning the game can choose to gradually increase the amount of ghost types they can encounter, while experienced players who want to play on lower difficulties can encounter every ghost type possible if they choose so. So that is everything I got to say about the tutorial. In my opinion, if the tutorial is implemented this way, I feel like it would give a lot more newcomers a lot easier of a time with learning the game. Now, I will admit that the last point was a whole different can of worms, but I did feel like it was important to touch on for the sake of making the game more accessible to newcomers. And I also hope you found this video interesting or thought-provoking. Honestly, Phasmophobia's development team is very passionate and very open, so I also hope that this video can in any way help them improve the game further, because I genuinely believe that the Phasmophobia is an amazing game. Be sure to like and subscribe to boost me the algorithm. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.